Margaret is 64 years old, and she is standing in her kitchen at 11 o'clock in the morning, holding a cup of tea she made 20 minutes ago and forgot about entirely. She is not worried about that. What she is worried about is a thing that happened last Tuesday. She was walking to the post office, a route she has walked 1,000 times, and her right knee made a sound she had never heard before. A deep, low grinding that stopped her mid-step. No pain, just sound, and then it was gone, as if it had never happened. She mentioned it to nobody. She mentioned it to nobody because nobody had ever told her that after 60, your body begins sending signals in a completely new language. A language made not of sharp pain and obvious symptoms, but of quiet shifts, strange sounds, subtle changes that arrive without fanfare and leave without explanation. And here is what Margaret doesn't know yet. What most people crossing 60 don't know is that these signals are not random. They are not simply the price of getting older. They are specific, measurable, biological events that researchers now understand in extraordinary detail. Events that, when you know what they are and why they happen, you can respond to with precision. The problem is not that these things are happening. The problem is that nobody warned you they would. Until today. Before we go further, everything in this video is based on peer-reviewed research and published medical studies. It is for informational purposes only and does not replace the advice of your personal doctor. Please consult your physician before making any changes to your health routine. Everybody is different and yours deserves individualized care. By the end of this video, you are going to know 8 specific things that begin happening inside and outside your body after the age of 60. Things that medicine understands clearly but that rarely make it into the conversations most people have with their doctors. For each one, you will know what is causing it, what it means, and what you can do about it starting today. Stay with me until number 7. It is the one that surprises people most. Not because it is the most dramatic, but because it is the most misunderstood. And that misunderstanding is costing people years of quality life. Your bones are losing density faster than you realize. There is no pain, no warning signal, no moment where you feel it happening. And that is exactly what makes it dangerous. After 60, bone density loss accelerates significantly in both men and women, but especially in women, where the absence of estrogen following menopause removes one of the primary biological brakes on bone resorption. In plain language, your body begins breaking down old bone faster than it builds new bone. And the gap between those two processes widens with every passing year. The National Osteoporosis Foundation estimates that 1 in 2 women and 1 in 4 men over the age of 50 will break a bone due to osteoporosis in their remaining lifetime. And the fracture that researchers worry most about is not the wrist or even the spine. It is the hip. A hip fracture after 70 carries a 1-year mortality rate of between 20 and 30%, meaning 1 in 4 or 5 people who break a hip at that age do not survive the following year. These are not small numbers. And yet bone density is almost never discussed until something breaks. Meet Clara. She is 66, slim, active, and looks, by every outward measure, like the picture of health. She hikes on weekends. She eats well. When a doctor ordered a routine DEXA scan, Clara expected a reassuring result. What came back showed significant bone density loss in both her hips and her lumbar spine. Osteopenia, trending toward osteoporosis. Clara had no symptoms. She had no idea. Her doctor identified 3 drivers. Her calcium intake was well below the recommended 1,200 milligrams per day for women over 50. Her vitamin D level was critically low despite living in a sunny climate, because she applied sunscreen immediately every time she went outdoors, blocking the skin's ability to synthesize D. And her diet, though varied, was low in the weight-bearing protein her bones needed to maintain their matrix. The intervention was not complicated. She added a calcium-rich food to 2 meals each day, a small pot of yogurt at breakfast, a handful of almonds and dark leafy greens at lunch. Her doctor prescribed vitamin D supplementation. She began 2 sessions of resistance training per week, because mechanical load on bones is one of the only proven stimulators of new bone formation at any age. At her follow-up scan 18 months later, her bone density loss had not just slowed. In her lumbar spine, it had partially reversed. Your bones are not static structures. They are living tissue that responds to the signals you give them. Start giving them the right ones. Your stomach is producing less acid, and that is a bigger problem than it sounds. This is one of the most overlooked changes that happens after 60, and it creates a cascade of consequences that most people never connect back to their source. As you age, the cells lining the stomach will gradually produce less hydrochloric acid. This condition is called hypochlorhydria, and it affects an estimated 30% of adults over 60. The immediate result is digestive discomfort, bloating, heaviness after meals, a feeling that food is sitting in the stomach too long. Many people interpret this as a sign they need to eat less, when in fact the problem has nothing to do with quantity, but the deeper consequence is nutritional. Stomach acid is not just for digestion. It is a mechanism by which your body unlocks and absorbs key nutrients, particularly vitamin B12, iron, calcium, and magnesium. When acid production drops, absorption of these nutrients drops with it, even when you are eating foods rich in them. You can be eating a nutritionally complete diet and still becoming deficient because your stomach can no longer extract what the food contains. B12 deficiency, in particular, is extraordinarily common in adults over 60 and profoundly underdiagnosed. Its symptoms mimic aging itself: fatigue, memory lapses, balance problems, low mood, tingling in the hands and feet. And because those symptoms look so much like what people expect from getting older, they are rarely investigated as a deficiency. Bernard is 68. For 2 years, he had been experiencing increasing fatigue, a persistent pins and needles sensation in his feet, and what he described to his doctor as a brain fog that came and went. He had assumed it was simply age. His original blood panel had not included B12. When his new doctor added it to the next test, his B12 came back at critically low levels, despite the fact that Bernard ate meat and dairy regularly. The cause was hypochlorhydria. His stomach was no longer producing enough acid to extract B12 from food. His doctor prescribed methylcobalamin injections, the most bioavailable form of B12, and within 6 weeks Bernard described a change so significant it felt like waking up. The tingling receded, the fog lifted. His energy, which he had quietly accepted as gone, returned. If you are experiencing fatigue, memory changes, tingling, or low mood after 60, ask your doctor to test your B12 level specifically. It is a simple blood test, and the difference between deficient and optimal may be the difference between the person you are now and the person you remember being. Your sleep architecture is fundamentally changing. You know something has changed about your sleep. You've known it for a while. What you may not know is exactly what is changing and why it matters far more than most people understand. Sleep is not a single, uniform state. It moves through a series of stages in roughly 90-minute cycles throughout the night: light sleep, deep slow-wave sleep, and REM sleep. Each stage serves a distinct biological function. Deep slow-wave sleep is when your body repairs tissue, consolidates physical memory, and regulates hormones, including growth hormone and cortisol. REM sleep is when emotional memory is processed, creativity is consolidated, and the brain essentially rehearses and reorganizes a day's experiences. After 60, the proportion of time spent in deep slow-wave sleep begins to decline significantly. Research from UC Berkeley found that between the ages of 60 and 70, slow-wave sleep can decrease by as much as 70% compared to young adulthood. Simultaneously, the brain becomes lighter in its sleep, more easily disturbed, more likely to surface into wakefulness during the night. The consequences are measurable and wide-ranging. Without sufficient deep sleep, growth hormone secretion, which drives cellular repair throughout the body, drops sharply. Cortisol, which should be lowest at night, remains elevated. And the glymphatic system, which clears toxic protein from brain tissue during sleep, cannot complete its work. Edna is 72. She goes to bed at 10 and rarely gets up before 6, 8 hours in bed by any measure. But she wakes 3 or 4 times each night, and by morning she feels as though she has barely slept. She has been to her doctor about it. She was offered sleeping tablets. She declined, sensing they were not addressing what was actually happening. What was happening was a fundamental shift in her sleep architecture, specifically the loss of deep slow-wave sleep, compounded by 2 lifestyle factors her doctor had not asked about. She was drinking 2 cups of tea at 7 and 9 in the evening, and the caffeine half-life meant it was still active in her system at midnight. And her bedroom was not dark enough. The street light outside her window was creating enough ambient light to suppress melatonin production. Edna made 3 changes. She moved her last caffeine to no later than 2 in the afternoon. She fitted blackout curtains, and she began taking a warm bath 90 minutes before bed, a technique backed by research at UT Austin showing that it accelerates a drop in core body temperature that signals the brain to enter deep sleep. Within 3 weeks, she was waking once instead of 4 times. Within 6 weeks, she told her sister she was dreaming again, properly, vividly, the way she used to. She hadn't realized until then how long it had been. Your sleep is not betraying you. It is changing. And change, when you understand it, can be worked with. Your body is becoming slow at regulating temperature. You probably noticed it before you had a name for it. The room that everyone else finds comfortable feels too cold to you. You overheat on a walk that used to feel easy. You shiver at temperatures that never used to bother you. And when you do get cold overheated, it takes far longer than it used to for your body to find its way back to comfortable. This is thermoregulatory decline, and it is one of the most universal yet least discussed changes that occurs after 60. Your body's ability to regulate internal temperature depends on 3 interconnected systems: the hypothalamus in the brain, which acts as a thermostat, the sweat glands, which cool the body through evaporation, and the peripheral blood vessels in the skin, which dilate to release heat or constrict to retain it. After 60, all 3 systems begin to slow. The number and responsiveness of sweat glands decreases, meaning the body's primary cooling mechanism becomes less efficient. The hypothalamus becomes less sensitive to temperature changes, meaning it takes longer to register that the body is too hot or too cold and trigger a response. And the blood vessels in the skin respond more slowly and less completely to temperature signals. The medical consequence is significant. Older adults are far more vulnerable to both heat stroke and hypothermia than younger people, and often cannot feel the danger coming until they are already in it. Josephine is 70. She lives alone and has always prided herself on being sensible about her health. Last summer, during a period of unusually hot weather, she felt fine, a little warm, perhaps, but not alarmed. When her neighbor came to check on her in the afternoon, Josephine was confused, her speech was slightly slurred, and her skin was hot and dry. She had developed heat exhaustion without feeling the progressive warning signs her younger body would have provided. She recovered fully, but her doctor used the incident to explain something she had never been told, that after 60, you cannot rely on your subjective sense of temperature as a safety signal the way you once could. The body's internal reporting system has changed. The practical response is straightforward but requires intention. During hot weather, drink water before you feel thirsty, because a thirst signal also slows after 60. Keep a thermometer in living spaces. Dress in layers that can be added or removed easily. And tell the people around you what to watch for, because sometimes the people around you will notice the signs before you do. Your body is still regulating temperature. It is simply doing it more slowly. Give it the assistance it needs. Your immune system is shifting into a different mode. The immune system you have at 65 is not the immune system you had at 35. Not weaker, exactly, but different. And understanding the nature of that difference is one of the most important things you can do for your long-term health. The process researchers call immunosenescence describes a gradual remodeling of immune function across the lifespan. As we age, the thymus gland, which produces and matures T cells, the immune system's targeted response team, shrinks progressively. By 65, the thymus is reduced to a fraction of its original size, and the production of naive T cells, the ones capable of recognizing and responding to new pathogens, has declined sharply. At the same time, chronic low-grade inflammation, a state called inflammaging, increases. The immune system, rather than mounting sharp, targeted responses and then returning to baseline, remains in a state of persistent mild activation. It is alert to everything and effective at nothing in particular. This chronic background inflammation is now understood to be a primary driver of accelerated aging across virtually every organ system: the cardiovascular system, the brain, the joints, the gut, and the metabolic system. Frank is 67. He noticed over the past 3 years that he was picking up every cold and flu that circulated through his family. Before retirement, he rarely got sick, 2 or 3 days a year at most. Since retiring, he seemed to catch everything, and when he did, he took much longer to recover than everyone else around him. His doctor identified elevated inflammatory markers alongside low vitamin D, inadequate sleep, and a diet that had shifted, since retirement, toward convenience foods low in the antioxidants and phytonutrients that support immune regulation. The changes Frank made were targeted. He increased his intake of foods rich in zinc, pumpkin seeds, legumes, shellfish, because zinc is essential for T-cell production and is commonly deficient in older adults. He committed to 7 hours of consistent sleep, understanding that immune function is most actively restored during deep sleep. He added a daily 20-minute walk outdoors, both for vitamin D synthesis and because moderate movement is one of the best documented stimulators of immune surveillance. Within one winter season, Frank had one mild cold that lasted 4 days. The winter before, he had been ill 3 times, with one episode lasting nearly 3 weeks. Your immune system is not failing. It is changing, and it responds with remarkable reliability to the specific inputs it needs. We are halfway through, and I want to stop for just a moment. Of the 5 changes we have covered so far, bone density loss, reduced stomach acid, shifting sleep architecture, slower temperature regulation, and immune remodeling, which one are you hearing about for the first time right now? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one, and I want to know which of these your doctor has never mentioned to you. And stay with me, because what is coming in the next 3 is where it gets deeply personal. Number 7 is the one people tell me they wish they had known about 10 years earlier. And I promise you, by the time we reach number 8, something will have shifted in how you see your own body. Your cardiovascular system is working harder to do the same job. Your heart has beaten approximately 2.5 billion times by the time you reach 65. Think about that number for a moment. 2.5 billion beats, each one a tiny muscular vent, each one moving blood through a network of vessels that, laid end to end, would circle the Earth more than twice. After 60, the cardiovascular system undergoes a series of structural changes that are entirely normal but profoundly important to understand. The heart muscle itself thickens slightly, a response to the increased effort required to pump blood through vessels that have become less elastic with age. The aorta and major arteries stiffen, reducing their ability to absorb and buffer the pressure wave of each heartbeat. The result is that the heart must work harder to achieve the same output, and blood pressure tends to rise, not because anything has gone wrong, but because the plumbing has changed. Simultaneously, the electrical system of the heart, the network that coordinates the timing of each beat, can develop subtle irregularities. Heart rate variability, once a rich and dynamic signal, tends to decrease. The heart becomes less adaptable, less able to accelerate quickly in response to demand, and slower to return to resting rate afterward. The most insidious aspect of cardiovascular aging after 60 is that it happens in the absence of symptoms. The changes are gradual, cumulative, and invisible, until they are not. Helen is 63. She has always had what she called a low-maintenance body. No significant illnesses, no surgeries, rarely unwell. She did not think of herself as someone who needed to worry about her heart. She was not overweight. She didn't smoke. She walked the dog every day. At a routine checkup, her doctor noted that her resting blood pressure, which had been 118/75 in her 50s, was now consistently 138/88. Her resting heart rate had risen slightly, and her heart rate variability, measured on a new screening device her practice had acquired, was in the lower range for her age. None of these findings were alarming in isolation. Together, they told a story of a cardiovascular system under increasing strain that could be directly addressed by specific lifestyle changes. Her doctor recommended a combination of daily aerobic movement, specifically 30 minutes of brisk walking, which is proven to improve arterial elasticity over time, a dietary shift toward the Mediterranean pattern, high in olive oil, oily fish, legumes, and dark leafy greens, and a significant reduction in sodium, which she had not realized she was consuming in large amounts through the pre-packaged food she ate for convenience. Helen's blood pressure at her 6-month review was 124/79. Her heart rate variability had improved measurably, and she described something she had not expected, that she felt calmer, more settled in her body, as though a low-level tension she had been carrying without knowing it had quietly eased. Your heart has carried you here without complaint. It is not asking for much in return. It is asking for movement, for anti-inflammatory food, for rest, and for the removal of the pressures that are working against it. That is not a large ask, not from something that has beaten 2.5 billion times on your behalf. Your brain's emotional processing is genuinely changing, and not in the way you think. This is the one people tell me, in the comments and in their messages, that they wish someone had told them about years earlier. After 60, the brain changes in ways that most people interpret as weakness, as loss, as something to be embarrassed about or hidden. And the interpretation is wrong. Profoundly, scientifically wrong. And that wrongness is causing real harm. Here is what the research actually shows. The amygdala, the brain's emotional alarm system, responsible for processing threat, fear, and intense negative emotion, becomes less reactive after 60. Studies using functional MRI imaging have shown that older adults amygdala respond with measurably lower intensity to negative stimuli than those of younger adults. At the same time, the connection between the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for emotional regulation, perspective, and nuanced judgment, strengthens with age. What this means in plain language is this. After 60, your brain becomes better at managing negative emotion, better at finding perspective, better at not being swept away by immediate reaction. Researchers at Stanford call this the positivity effect, the documented tendency of older adults to weight positive emotional experiences more heavily and negative ones less heavily than younger people do. This is not decline. This is refinement. Decades of accumulated emotional experience, encoded in neural circuits that have been strengthened by repetition, produces a form of emotional intelligence that simply does not exist in a younger brain. But, and this is the part that matters, this natural shift toward emotional balance can be disrupted. Chronic stress, social isolation, sleep deprivation, and systemic inflammation each independently damage the prefrontal amygdala connection. They weaken precisely the neural architecture that age is trying to build. And when that disruption happens, the emotional changes of aging that should feel like wisdom begin instead to feel like loss. The flatness, the withdrawal, the reduced engagement, the quiet surrender of things that used to matter. Edward is 71. He spent 40 years as a secondary school head teacher, a man of enormous presence, warmth, and emotional range. He could read a room in seconds, manage a crisis with calm, and remember the name of every student he had ever taught. Since retiring at 67, something had shifted that he could not name precisely. He was not sad. He was not depressed. Exactly. He simply felt less engaged, less curious, less moved by things. He had stopped attending the concerts he had gone to every month for 30 years. He told his wife he just didn't feel like it, without being able to explain why. His doctor found elevated cortisol, significantly disrupted sleep, and near-complete social withdrawal following retirement. Edward had lost the daily structure, social contact, and sense of purpose that had been sustaining his prefrontal cortex's health for 4 decades, and his brain was showing the consequences. The prescription was not medication. It was re-engagement, specifically structured. His doctor, who had read widely in this area, asked Edward one question. What do you know that nobody else knows? Edward thought about it and said, the history of this town. For 40 years, he had researched it quietly, extensively, privately. His doctor suggested he offer a free monthly talk at the local library. Edward declined initially, then agreed. The first talk had 11 people. By the 6th month, it had 60 and a waiting list. Edward told his doctor at his next appointment that he felt like himself again, not the self of 40. But the self of himself, present, engaged, curious, alive to the world around him. The emotional changes your brain is making after 60 are, at their core, a gift. Your role is to protect the neural architecture that allows you to receive it. Your relationship with hunger and thirst has fundamentally changed. We have arrived at the final one, and in some ways it is the most practical, the most immediately actionable, and the most widely ignored. After 60, the signals your body uses to communicate hunger and thirst become significantly less reliable. Not absent, but quieter, slower, and easier to misread or miss entirely. The mechanism behind thirst decline is well documented. The hypothalamus, which monitors blood osmolality, the concentration of dissolved substances in the blood, becomes less sensitive to changes in that concentration with age. The result is that by the time you consciously feel thirsty after 60, you are already meaningfully dehydrated. The early signal, the gentle internal nudge that a younger body would have sent an hour earlier, has been missed entirely. The clinical consequences of chronic mild dehydration in older adults are far more serious than most people appreciate. Dehydration after 60 is a leading contributor to urinary tract infections, kidney stones, constipation, cognitive dulling, dizziness, and falls, and in more extreme cases, acute confusion and hospitalization. Studies estimate that up to 40% of community-dwelling older adults are chronically mildly dehydrated, not dramatically, not dangerously, but persistently and consequentially. The hunger signal changes differently. Rather than becoming weaker in the way thirst does, it becomes less precise. The hormonal system that regulates appetite, ghrelin, which stimulates hunger, and leptin, which signals satiety, becomes less finely tuned after 60. What this means in practice is that some older adults lose their appetite more easily and eat less than their bodies need, while others find their satiety signal less reliable and eat past the point of genuine need without intending to. Both patterns have consequences. Undereating after 60, even mild, unintentional undereating, drives muscle loss, weakens bone density, impairs immune function, and accelerates cognitive aging. This is why appetite loss in older adults is taken seriously by geriatricians as a standalone clinical concern, not merely a digestive complaint. Ruth is 74. She lives alone since her husband passed 3 years ago. She eats. She makes herself eat, but she has gradually, without fully noticing it, been eating less at each meal. She was not hungry in the way she used to be. Food held less appeal. She had lost 6 kilograms over 2 years without trying. She thought it was simply grief, or aging, or both. Her doctor found that Ruth was consuming significantly less protein than her body needed to maintain muscle mass, and that her fluid intake, which she tracked for a week at her doctor's request, averaged just over a liter per day. For a woman her size and age, she needed closer to 2 liters. The changes were practical and small. A glass of water on the bedside table to drink before getting up each morning. A second glass before each meal. A small protein-rich snack. A boiled egg, a handful of nuts, a piece of cheese, added between meals to address the gap between what her body needed and what her appetite was requesting. Ruth's energy improved within 3 weeks. Her GP noted at the next visit that she appeared more alert. And Ruth herself said something that has stayed with me since I came across it. She said, "I didn't realize how dim the lights had gotten until someone turned them back up. Your hunger and thirst are still there. They are simply speaking more quietly than they used to. The answer is not to wait until you hear them. It is to build the habits that meet your body's needs before the signal arrives. Let us bring all 8 together, because the most important thing to understand about this list is not any single change in isolation. It is what they have in common. Bone density declining silently, stomach acid reducing and taking your nutrient absorption with it, sleep architecture shifting away from the depth your body depends on, temperature regulation slowing in ways you cannot always feel, the immune system trading sharp targeted responses for chronic low-grade inflammation, the cardiovascular system working harder against stiffer vessels, the brain remodeling its emotional architecture in ways that can be either wisdom or withdrawal depending on what you give it, and hunger and thirst growing quieter, asking you to lead rather than follow. None of these are failures. Not one. They are biological transitions, each one with a clear mechanism, a clear consequence, and a clear, actionable response. The reason they harm people is not because they are inevitable or irreversible. It is because nobody warned them they were coming. And without the warning, people interpret the signals as simply getting old, accept them as fixed, and stop responding. You now have a warning, and with it, you have something most people your age do not have, the information to respond. Here's what I want you to do right now. Pick the one change from today's list that you recognize most immediately in your own body, the one that made you pause, the one where you thought, yes, that is the one. Write it in the comments below. Not because I'm asking you to perform your vulnerability in public, but because naming something is the first act of addressing it. And because someone else in this community is sitting with the exact same thing and has not yet found the courage to name it. Your comment may be the thing that gives them permission to begin. If this video reached you, if something in it landed in a way that felt true, share it with someone you love, a partner, a sibling, a friend who has been quietly noticing things and not saying so. The gift of the right information at the right moment is one of the most powerful things one person can give another. Subscribe if you have not already. New videos every single week, grounded in real science, told through real stories, made for people who are not done with their lives and not willing to go quietly into a diminished version of them. Because you are not done, not remotely. The 8 things we talk about today, They are not the beginning of the end. They are the beginning of a different kind of attention, a more honest relationship with a body that has carried you this far, a wiser, more deliberate partnership between who you are and what your biology needs. That partnership is available to you. It starts with exactly what you just did, paying attention. Keep going. You have more in you than you know.